Perfect. So we're just gonna do quick introductions. I know there's more people, but it's just nice to say your name. There's agendas here, and I'm actually going to, there's agendas on the table. So hello. Let me just give them the agenda on Zoom. We have a lot of Zoom folks. Okay, I will do that in a second. I can't seem to get out of this. This is frozen now. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. I hope everyone got to eat something. Feel free to go back for second or thirds. So we're just going to go around, say your name and the grade your kiddo is in, or grades, and what's your favorite spring flower? And a 3-paragraph essay of why. No, just kidding. Okay, just what's your favorite? Okay. So Sana and I have a third grader, and I like tulips only when they're like, I don't want to receive tulips, they die too quickly. I like to see them on people's lawns.
Mm-hmm. I'm Christine Kennedy, assistant principal. I really like lilac.
I'm Sue Francis, I'm the IB coordinator, and I am amazed that the crocus are already coming out.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Diego De Paz. I'm the principal here at Bancroft. And my favorite spring flowers are also tulips, but other people's tulips that end up in my yard because of the squirrels. And those are just popping up in the middle of my yard. And those are the most fun tulips.
I'm Rachel. I have a third grader, and my favorite spring flower, I'm gonna go with lilacs.
Hi, my name is Evelyn, and my favorite spring flower are lilacs. My name is Brad, and I'm in 5th grade, and my favorite spring flower is violet.
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm a 4th grader and a high fiver. And I'm going to echo the tulips, and I grew a real appreciation for them that first year of COVID when I forced my family on so many walks. And we just saw so many beautiful, colorful tulips.
I'm Molly, I've got a 4th grader, Lonnie, who's over there. And I would say trout lilies.
I'm Lindsay. I use she, her pronouns. Evelyn is my 4th grader. I feel like violets and just, there.
Eric, I have a 1st grader and incoming high fiver. I'll join the lilac family.
My name is Everett, and I'm in 2nd grade, and my favorite flower is tulip.
I'm Liz Thompson, I have 2 5th graders, and I'll go lilacs.
I'm Tanika. I have a 4th grader and a 1st grader, and I like daffodils. Again, I'm not sure if that's a spring flower.
I'm Courtney Moy, I'm a 1st grader. Use she, her pronouns. I like irises.
Okay.
I'm Darren Jensen. I'm a 1st grader. I like any flowers really. The greenness of the time is great.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm Chris Tomlinson, and we have the same 1st grader, and I like iris also.
Okay.
I'm Roby. I have a 5th grader and a 2nd grader, and I like lilacs.
I'm Peter Caldwell. I have Everett and Ren, and I like apple and cherry.
I'm Robin Anderson. I have a 5th grader and a 3rd grader. And I can't remember if it's Forsythia or Forsythia, the yellow flowers. I don't know that. No, it's Forsythia, right? Forsythia. Those are ones I like.
I'm Mel. I have a 1st grader, and peonies are my favorite.
Claire, 1st grader. I'm with Mel, and peonies are a family favorite, so that's +1.
Hi, my name is Ira Jordan, and I am a former Bancroft parent. school board here this season. And we have tulips as long until the rabbits come in.
Hi, I'm Christina Davis. I have 2 first graders, and my favorite spring flower is the flowering crabapple. So the tree.
My name is Mario. I have 3 grade. We like ladies.
Hi, Sarah Berkey. I have a high five and first grader here. And we have a red bud tree in our yard that's really beautiful with flowers.
Mike Beaton, I have a first grader and a third grader. I go with tulips.
Elizabeth, a kindergartner, first with you as well.
I'm Melissa, I have a third grader, and I like Viola.
I'm Tom, my voice is shot today. I've got a second grader. Give it up for the clover, man.
My name is Paul. I have a 3rd grader. I don't know if I know my 4th grader. This is 4 months running. I just 6 months now. Sorry. Well, also, not only do I not know my kid's own grade, I don't know spring flowers. I call everything a stargazer. It's a joke to my wife, who's sick of it. And we do have wedding flowers whose name I don't know, but I can recognize. So I'm halfway there.
All right, folks online, if you, Michelle, you want to unmute?
Oh. Hi, I'm Michelle. And I have a 3rd grader and an incoming kindergartner next year.
Yeah.
And
I'm
like
afraid that the incoming kindergartner is sick.
again.
I just got sick.
Yes. And we really like pansies and violas, I think all 3 of us.
Yeah.
Awesome. Colette?
Hi everyone, I'm Colette. I have a child in kindergarten. And I'm gonna go with lilac as well, probably. It's my favorite spring flower.
Tasha, as you walk away. Sorry.
Just trying to make dinner. I'm Tasha Novotny, and I have a kindergartner and a 2nd grader at Bancroft. And what's our favorite spring flower? Probably, I don't know if it's a spring flower, but spider mums are my favorite. But I don't know if that's spring, but oh well.
Thank you. Brandon? No, Brandon or Megan. Any folks online want to agree? Want to say hello?
Hi everyone, my name is Kate Elwell. I use she, her pronouns. I have a 2nd grader and a high fiver, and my favorite flower is lilac.
Anyone else?
Hey, I'm Rita. Boys, my use she, her pronouns. I have a 4th grader, and everything in the spring makes me sneeze. So I don't know.
Cactus. No. Anyone else? Okay, Megan said I'm going to just type mine because I'm supervising bath and dinner. I'm Megan and I have a kindergarten and a 5th grader, and I don't know as much about flowers as I should. Okay. Luke, did you want to go?
Muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, I'm just joining, just here. Was I supposed to say something?
Just your name and what grade your kid is in, and what's your favorite flower?
Luke Anderson. I have Ellery in 5th grade, Ellery Anderson, and Adam Anderson in 3rd grade. Favorite flower? Probably rose because it's Ellery's middle name.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, now we're going to talk about the plant sale. No, I'm just kidding. That'd
be awesome.
Perfect. I should have asked the favorite plant. Tallied it up. Okay. We're going to.
I can't tell lilac. Sorry, that was referring to. No, can't tell lilac.
Oh, wait. Did you go already?
No.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm Shauna Cox. I will be running plant sale. And my favorite flower is a columbine, and my poor columbine started trying to sprout in January, so we'll see how they do.
Did everyone else go in here? No. Yes? Yes. Okay. And everyone online? I'm just going to make sure. Okay, I know everybody wants to get to Diego, but first we're gonna start with the 2024 t-shirt design. Michelle, are you there? Yeah, Michelle.
I am here. Sorry. Another. I've lost touch of the number of times I've said this, but I have a sick kid on my lap. I am going to sorry, my kid pushed something. I'm gonna so is it better if I share my screen or if I drop something in the chat and have you share it, Sana?
Probably me.
Okay, perfect. I just got a PDF to drop in the chat.
Okay.
And
I'll grab it.
And then I will share it?
I'll grab it. I'm already plugged in.
Okay.
Perfect. So basically Drew Brockington, who is amazing, who's created our bulldog and our previous t-shirts, created 3 new t-shirt designs. Aaliyah and I are working with Overproof, the screen printer who printed our shirts before, and our rep there is also sick. And so we will be going in to meet with them probably in the next week to go over shirts, but these are mocked up on basically just some possible ideas. So the idea behind this was that we would probably pick one design for t-shirts, and those would be the free t-shirts that everybody would get. So everybody in the school would get a free t-shirt, and people could pay to get an extra t-shirt. So the way we did this last time was we basically just charged people the cost of the t-shirt if they wanted another one. So if I wanted one for myself or one for like a younger kid or something, I could pay that cost and get another t-shirt. The other thing that we're going to add this year are hoodies. And those are not going to be free. Those will be selling those again, probably either at or pretty close to cost. And those I imagine will have a different design. So there's 3 different designs that Drew's created, and I've kind of mocked them into 2 possible sort of colored t-shirts that are different colors than, oops, I think we're on arts education, which is awesome, but.
Oh yeah, look, so you can see what we're seeing.
What do you see?
We're not seeing that
Got
anymore.
it. Let's try that again.
I mean, I love arts education, but I think what we had talked about with the t-shirt ideas is not doing the royal blue t-shirt this year, but we still want to keep it with Bancroft colors. So I pulled among the t-shirt brands that were likeliest to pick from Overproof, I pulled 2 other colors to kind of fit with that. And then there are not a lot of options for pullover hoodies, so I stuck with royal blue and navy blue options because there just aren't a lot of other options for hoodies. Especially not if you want one both for kids and for adults. And so it basically just mocked the designs into different options. We wanted to run them by all of you. The next step after we take a look at them and pick what we like is to have set something up, I think in the cafeteria for the students to vote on with little stickers or post-its so they can vote on their favorites. I think probably just for the t-shirt for what the t-shirt that they're going to get. So we have the bulldog spinning the globe. We had the bulldog and the globe being friends, and then my favorite, which is the bulldog and the globe dancing. The third one, I will say, just from a design perspective, that design 3, where the bulldog and the globe are dancing together, is a more horizontal design. So that actually lends itself really well to the hoodies because since the hoodies have a pocket, they don't have as much. That's really a much more horizontal space to put the design. So if my suggestion would be to pick the 3rd design for the hoodie and then maybe let the students vote on the 3 because I think all 3 of them look good on the t-shirt. But I am happy to hear any feedback from anybody, at what anybody wants. If we want the kids to vote on 1 or us on 2, if we want the kids to vote on 3, I just think we want their voices to be heard on it.
Any questions about the t-shirt or the process?
When would they be available?
So our goal, okay, in terms of timeline, do you want to talk about it, Michelle?
Yeah, sure. So we're sort of running into spring break here, and we want to give people enough time to get their sizes to us. If they want to purchase something, great. But the most important thing is that we get everybody's sizes. So we're getting all the students shirts in their size, in their proper sizes. And so I think ideally, time-wise, we would have something up for the students to vote on probably later this week. We would send forms home on take-home day on the 21st because that's a take-home Thursday. We would have the forms ready to send home, and then people could have them from then through after spring break, and we'll hound people a bunch of times to get them back. Remind them kindly to get them back, but then they'll have 3 weeks to sort of take a look, pick their size, if send any money back if there's anything that they want to buy, and then we'll be able to compile them shortly after spring break. And then I think overproof usually takes about 2 weeks to print. They're pretty fast, so we should have shirts by the end of April unless something goes wrong.
Michelle, I may have missed this, but looking like they're filled in white, is that just because they were mocked up? Are they printed as like line?
That's something that we can decide. I had laid them out as 2-color designs, but looking at them really small, I'm actually thinking we might want to just do yellow on maybe stick with 2-color designs on the t-shirts with white and blue on the t-shirts, and just have it be solid yellow on the hoodies. When I was looking at them zoomed in, I liked them better with the white, but I'm actually thinking I might let it. It's cheaper and it might be better just to do the yellow on the hoodies because they're so dark. And we don't think we need the white on there.
Any other questions?
But I think last year we printed 2-color designs on the t-shirts and it didn't add considerably the cost to do an extra color. And that's something we'll have to talk about with overproof also. Also what ink colors they offer when Tom is out of quarantine and we meet with him.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, I think clear, right? We're not gonna make any decisions about we're gonna have the students vote on the design. And then that'll get us to decide the design, and then like Michelle said, forms will be sent home for sizing, and if you wanna order more, and then 2 to 3 weeks later, whenever we get all the forms in, we'll get the t-shirts out. Okay.
But I think having the feedback is great. Like the feedback about the white, I'm like, yeah, actually, maybe we want to just get rid of the white and save ourselves a little bit of money on the hoodies.
I'd actually take the white out on all of them.
Really? Okay.
But maybe zoomed in, they look better from a distance.
Yeah.
They just sort of look like white schmooze. So, but there's a big room waiting to hear about the budget, so I will say.
Just one quick question. Is it the same price point as last year? Are we looking at?
We don't know exactly. We'll know after we meet with them.
Yes, but we're trying to keep it within within the same amount.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Thanks. All right, I'm as anxious to hear Diego as everybody else. So.
Okay, all right.
Who wants to hear more about shirts?
No.
Sure, let's keep talking about the shirts. That's more fun to me. All right, so you want me to share my screen?
Oh, can you? You can,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, okay.
What just happened? Do you want your camera on?
Or do we don't want to watch what?
Well, it's being recorded. So it's your question. You want it.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. You don't have you never updated. It's because I don't use Zoom. Can you email me the file? Yeah. This is a work computer or your computer? Work computer. Yeah, so you don't have driver, just your driver. At Gmail? Here.
Okay. No, I'm good.
Keep all B23, right?
Yeah, I sent you just the link, so hopefully that works.
All right. I need to give you permission, so I'm sending it. Assessment access.
Hello now.
Oh, but now you're in control of it, aren't you?
Yeah, that's, you just have to say next and I'll click over. Let me just get the share going.
Sure.
Which one is it? This one, right?
Yeah, I can do this forever.
Okay, next. All right, it is Women's History Month. So this week I've been sharing this with staff both at our ILT and our staff meeting. And so I use this image or all these images. So we don't all have to share because there's a lot of us here. We want to get to the numbers that are being passed out. But which image resonates with you and why?
Are you waiting for answers?
I'm waiting. Yeah, we can pop out and say.
Reference my bag here, it says what would Dolly do? Dolly Parton.
One for Dolly.
Songwriter, singer, activist, no?
Yep.
I love the one with the poet.
Amanda Gorman.
I like Taylor Swift.
All right. I think all powerful women in their own right. Lonnie said Taylor Swift, so I have, if you don't know, I have a 12-year-old who's in 6th grade, and then my twins are 9 and they're in 3rd grade. And so they're huge Swifties right now, and the football appearances and the Super Bowl and all that stuff kind of just like brought that out. And the other day at dinner, Sonia, one of my twins, who's a little more lively and feisty, was like, so Dad, who was like the Taylor Swift when you were a kid? And like the first person that popped in my mind was Madonna. And so that's, and then I was like, oh, well, maybe Janet Jackson, maybe Whitney Houston. I don't know. Paula Abdul had a quick run. But I just kept coming back to Madonna. So that's why I decided to put her up there, because it was conversation at my dinner table. But all right. Thank you all for indulging me there. Next. All right. So as you all probably have heard or have read in various different places, Minneapolis Public Schools is facing an unprecedented budget gap of nearly $110 million. I did read an article for NPR just about a week ago now that 70% of school districts are facing budget shortfalls. And so, unfortunately, Minneapolis is not alone in this place of having a budget gap. And so we'll talk about the specific impacts that it will have on Bancroft. But I just also wanted to give some like overall pieces. First, budgets are based a lot on enrollment. And so it's like a really bad metaphor, but kids come with a little backpack of money, and then that's, what the schools get. And so our enrollment projection is 447 kids for next school year. That is 56 more than last year's projection. Last year we were projected at 391 kids. And so our enrollment has been over since day one. And so I'm really thankful and glad that that has been reflected in our projections for this coming year. And so right now we are sitting at 503 students. That number includes High Five, and we have 3 classrooms at High Five. Enrollment projections never include High Five. And so that's why that number looks so drastically different than what our actual enrollment is, because it doesn't include High Five. I have an image that we'll show next, but another big piece that happened this year is that class size targets were increased by 3 students per grade level. And so
Do we have a handout?
no.
You'll show it though, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It'll come up.
Okay.
And then the other thing that's shown in the projected enrollment is a potential 3-4 grade level split class. And I don't know if there's any folks here. The first year we became a community school, we had a 2-3 split class, which Beth Anderson taught and did a wonderful job, but it was very, very, very challenging. And so that is a proposal in this enrollment projection. And then I do want to make sure that we talk about the district-wide reductions because these all impact us directly here at our site. So there is the reduction of the intervention triad model. This year we had 2 intervention teachers and we had 4 associate educators that were part of that intervention model. And so those are being reduced. And so those folks will be accessed for next school year. This one too, where there's a reduction of world language funding. So that's an impact of for all the PYP schools, so the primary years program IB schools, as well as the middle year program schools are also having their world language funding reduced. And that is the 1.0 teacher for us. And then district-wide, there's also the reduction of 5th grade instrumental band. For us, it's a 0.3 teacher that is shared with 2 other schools with their 5th grades. Bancroft is also being reduced 1 high 5 classroom. District-wide, I believe there was 8 or 9, I think it's 8 high 5 classrooms that were being reduced. We are one of them. So that is a 1.0 teacher and a 32-hour AE that are connected to that classroom. And then district-wide in the elementary schools, there's the reduction of the K-5 literacy and math TOSA. The district funded us a 0.5 with that position, and then we bought up another half to make that a full-time position. But those are all the district-wide reductions that are impacting us here.
What is TOSA?
Teacher on special assignments. So it's basically not a classroom teacher, but they still hold the same credentials and teacher licensure. So it's a teacher on special assignment. Next. So again, this is kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but I wanted to share this with folks so they can have an idea of what our enrollment projection looks like. On the left is this current school year. So you can see here's our grade levels. Again, high 5 is not included, K through 5. This is the number of classrooms that we're supposed to have. And then this is the number of classrooms that were funded. So we're funded per pupil. So there are occasions when we're not funded for a full classroom. We're funded for a partial classroom. And so an example is right here, 2nd grade. We're supposed to have 3 classrooms. We were funded for 2.7. And so somewhere within my budget and my flexible funds, I need to make up that 0.3 to make a full teacher. Make sense? And then these were the class size targets. So to have a full teacher in kindergarten, I needed 24 kindergartners. To get a full teacher in 1st grade, I needed 24 1st graders, and so on up to class size of 5th grade. I needed 28 kids to have 1.0 teacher. And this is where the impact of increasing class size targets by 3 makes a difference. So you can see here, students needed to fund it at 1 kindergarten teacher is now 27. And all the way up, each grade level was increased by 3. 5th grade, I need 31 kids to fund 1 teacher. So that has made a big difference. Last year we were funded, well, not last year, this current year, we were funded for 15.3 teachers. And we had to buy up to get 16 classrooms. This year, we're being funded for 15.6 classrooms, and we still are needing to buy up to 16. So even though we have 56 more kids, we were funded for 0.3 more than we were this year, which really isn't the difference to make up for the 56 kids. You have a question back there.
How does that work with the teacher contract and like class size caps?
Great question. So we are a school that is below 70% free and reduced. Our free and reduced is right around 56%. And so class size caps are, I don't know them off the top of my head. I have a picture on my phone, but I think it's like 34 kids we're not even though this looks really high, it's not even that close. And Christine, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, 4th and 5th are 36.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So, and that's the contract language. And so that's what's in the contract. I want to find, I'm not going to find it and we're going to waste time.
Oh,
but-
it's fine.
Okay,
You're good. Thank you.
yep.
And so the budget targets are set and we never get more budget even if more kids come during the course of the year.
So yes, we can. So we do have in October, staffing adjustments. Who asked the question? Sorry, I was looking for my picture. So we have staffing adjustments. And so depending on what number of students we are over, like this year, we got 2 AEs. We were not able to fill those, and those came in January. So after even the December enrollment counts. We were also given an additional, or funded an additional 0.5 special ed teacher. That one we were never able to fill either. And some of that I turned into, we did increase the funding for one of our EL teachers. So she went from 0.5 to 0.8. So there is that opportunity if we're over our projection by a significant number of kids, then we will hopefully get staffing adjustments. But Christine and I just had this conversation. I don't know with the state of the district if there will be, depending on if positions aren't filled in other schools, if other schools are under enrolled, what that will mean to potentially over enrolled schools. Go ahead.
I'm curious who is responsible for the decision to increase class size targets by 3 students?
I don't know. I'm guessing that is our. Yep, that's not me. This is. I'm just a messenger in most of this, but yeah, no, that's a great question. I don't know that answer. Someone at the district level probably has that answer for you. But I think this is again how I wanted to show folks that now it takes more kids to get 1.0 teachers, and then this is our funded students that are projected, number of placements. And that's kind of where we're at right now. I can already say that we have 69 kindergartners already enrolled at Bancroft, or not enrolled, placed, and then they have to come and register. We're gonna have our kindergarten open house and registration event in May. Over here and then V12.
Is there a maximum number of kids that we can enroll at Bancroft, or do you just, how do you know when to say?
So that's a great question. If students are in our attendance zone, they have the right to be in this school. And so there's not really a mechanism in place that denies kids their community school, which I think is a good thing because we wanted our community schools to be robust and fill up with the kids that are in this neighborhood. It's the out of area kids or out of area students that will not necessarily be able to be placed here, or once the year starts, then those kids will need to go to a magnet or their community school. And then our capacity is 635 or 645 kids if we were to fill up every single classroom that we have. We're not going to get there this year, which is great because we already have a lot of kids. But that's kind of where we're at with the filling of spaces. And if we keep getting more kids from our neighborhood, then that will impact the potential staffing adjustments that will happen in October.
My follow-up, I think, rides on this. If I remember correctly, we walked into this school year with 150 newly placed students from our neighborhood, 49 students from outside our zone. So we were 200 placed this year, and they're estimating 111, or am I misreading this number?
No, that's correct.
So my question truly is, I know you're the messenger, but I want to put this out there. How is it that the district is guesstimating that we're a 111 placement when just this year we did 200?
They always lowball it.
I mean, that's an amazing lowball, that's, what is that? Is it under 60%? I didn't do the math, Melton. What is that?
But does that include the high kids?
No, none of these conversations. Well, no, I didn't include high five.
Yeah, there we go. Because I love that number because it meant that we were a growing community. I mean, that's the thing, and I want Diego to get this back, but we've been harping the whole time that enrollment means money, and the more we increase our enrollment, the more funding we will get. And this year, we're seeing that even with increased enrollment, they boosted our numbers, but they cut our funding elsewhere, and you're going to get to the rest of that too. But so that's, I don't know if you can tell what kind of mood I'm in because of that. But
all right, any other questions around the enrollment and then the projections? So I didn't clarify this point. Sorry, just give me 1 second. So this is where you can see they are proposing a split classroom. And so we have 73 third graders, which makes sense because the second grade cohort is our smallest right now. And so they've split those 73 kids into 2.5 classes, with 29 kids in a class. And then our cohort of third graders, which right now are in 3 classes, and they're all at 27 or 28. They have that projected as 78 kids, and then divided that into 2.5 classes for 4th grade at 31. So then that would be a 3-4 split proposed. No.
So that is the district's suggestion, is that we have a class that consists of 3rd and 4th graders with a single teacher?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's the district's suggestion, that's just what the projection shows. And so what we do with that is kind of up to us, but yes, if I was just to fund it the way this is shown, and I use my 16 FTE, it would be a split class of 3rd and 4th. So we would have 2 3rd grade classes, 2 4th grade, and then 1 through 4th split.
And how does that work?
That's a great question. I'm not going to get into those weeds because I'm not going to do it.
We're like, so they're estimating that like numbers are dropping for some of them. So like if you look at 4th grade for next year, they're at 73, right?
Yep.
But then this year you have 80. So where do they say that? So like if I look at.
Yeah, so here, right now, there's, 80, and then they're projecting 78. So there's always they apply an attrition rate.
Okay, I was looking at the wrong.
Yeah, so you gotta, this is this year's, and so then you just gotta follow like the cohort. So we have those 66 5th graders leaving, and then the 64 will be the 65. So they have us at a little bit more. But they do have some attrition rates that are applied. And you can see that they have a 9% attrition rate. And so we do lose kids here and there. What I've noticed too is that we're losing a lot less students because we are a community school. And so they're staying here at Bancroft, which is fantastic. So yeah, so that's kind of a general attrition rate that's applied to each grade level. And then that's how they come up with the placements to fill the gap, or fill the grade levels.
So the position that you weren't able to fill, is it because of no interest? Is it because they're looking for more than a 0.5 position? Do we know like what the barriers?
No, it could be all those things. I mean, there's a 0.5 special ed teacher position posted in, February? And so I think that's a really impossible hiring timeline for teachers, because either teachers are still in school or teachers have a contract that they can't necessarily break out of when they're in another district. And so I will say that we had 0 applicants for that position. And so that was a challenge, right? And so that's kind of where we were at with that. And it's just it was a bad time to post a position for a teacher.
But that's how they'll do it every year, if they give us more.
Well, that came from another conversation, but my hope is that in October, we have folks that are either still looking for a job, or you have folks that are just finishing, because some teachers graduate in December. And so that would be another opportunity to apply for a job and then, be able to fill that role. All right, let's go next. All right, can you click on that?
Make this clickable, you're making me work.
Can go back. Are you able to click it?
Oh, click the link?
Yeah, it's a link.
Okay. Oh, you gotta give me access. Did you see me?
What?
Did you see my request?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do I say yes? Review, editor. No, you can't get over here, viewer. Share anyway.
Okay. All right, you can probably zoom in to like 200 so I can see it also. All right, so I think most of you in here have this sheet. And I just wanted to go through, and the notes will make sense to me. They might not make any sense to you. But you can write your own notes. Oh, I didn't change the top there. That should say 23, 24, but that's okay.
Where? Oh, at the,
Yeah.
you didn't give me editor right. So
Nope. All right, so this is just allocation comparisons between this current school year and next school year. And so you can see there's the difference right at the top, the enrollment from 391 was what our projection was for this school year. Clearly, we're way above that. And then next school year projected at 447. That's a difference of 56 kids. But that I did make the note, and I just shared with you kind of the impact of the class size targets being increased by 3 students. Our free and reduced is staying about the same, so we're currently at 56%. And then next year, we're projected to be right around 54%. And that's always an important number for schools because that also dictates how much Title I funding we get and how much compensatory ed funding we get. And so the higher that those numbers are, the more funding we get in those 2 buckets.
Not to go down a rabbit hole, but now there's not free and reduced lunch. Is it all through the educational benefits?
Yep.
Then is it still gonna be called free and reduced?
No, it's called educational benefits.
Perfect.
Yep. So I still use free and reduced, but it's educational benefits. So I think most of you here, like we have those forms that we're like, please fill out this form because it impacts our school funding. It literally does. And so, I think we've had this conversation at Site Council before. I need everybody to fill it out. You're not taking from somebody who might qualify or would get more funding. Everyone needs to fill it out. And then the state decides whether you qualify or you don't. And if you qualify for free or if you qualify for reduced, it also impacts other educational benefits that you can receive. So I just need everybody to fill that out. And those are always needing to be completed by December 15th. And so then that reflects how much funding we'll get for the next school year. So that's why we make phone calls from the office. We track you down at conferences. We put them in kids' backpacks to make sure that everyone fills out educational benefits form. The next 3 funds, class size referendum, class size 1001, and referendum fund balance are all funds that I can only use for classroom teachers and specialists. And again, those are all based on our enrollment projection. And so that's where the 15.6 teachers comes in. And then every classroom, every FTE has a 0.2 specialist attached to it. So if you multiply 15.6 times 2 times 0.2, you get 3.1. You want to do that? 15.6 times 0.2, you get 3.12. And so you add the 3.12 plus the 15.6 and you get 18.72. And that's how much I get in these 3 buckets of money. And this referendum fund balance was a new one that was added, but it's just making up for this. So if you notice, it's all the same money, just in 3 different pots instead of 2 different pots. And then this 153,860, that shows the increase for the 0.3 and the point whatever specialist I'm getting. So it's funding for 15.6 teachers, 3.1 specialists, and it's an increase of $153,000. Yep. Then basic per student. This one was a formula of $65 per kid, basically. And this was a very flexible account where I could fund anything. And this year, that has been taken away because most of the things that I used to fund from that allocation have been line itemed. So if you scroll up a little bit, me, Paul. So now this $195,000, and I said right here, typical items funded were line item. Social work time was usually funded from comp ed. So all the way from supplies, HSA, secretary, social worker, and principal's discretion. Those, all of those I always used out of that basic account anyways, but now they were all taken out. And then when I added those all together, it was about a $40,000 decrease. And that, again, is very impactful because that's the most, I can fund anything I want out of that account. So the social worker is a 0.4 for the building. Secretary is full-time secretary. HSA is our health service assistant, so the other person that's in the nurse's office. And then supplies, this is a very small amount compared to what we're used to. And I think that's where the big decrease is. So $22,000 is what I have for supplies. And that is $50 per kid. This year, I've shared this with a few folks, we set aside $65,000 for supplies. And that's like our paper, our copier, our lease for our copier, postage, cardstock, clay, like any supplies that we purchase comes out of that. And so that's about a $40,000 decrease from what we're accustomed to. And then Comp Ed, the next fund, this one again is funding based on our percentage of folks who qualify for educational benefits. And that has decreased by $61,000. And that again is a fund where I can allocate to a lot of things. I can buy up teachers. I can buy up AEs and ESPs. I can add more special ed time. And so that was that's a hard account not to have a lot of funding from. The other ones you'll see are pretty much dedicated for specific people or programs. I shouldn't say people, specific positions. So the special ed cert, we're funded for 2 certs. The increase is the cost of living increase. So the way teachers are funded is an average salary, which includes benefits. Last year, an average teacher salary, including benefits, was $106,575 or something like that. This year, it's $113,663. So that's what that difference there accounts for. The special ed 1004, that is for our ASD program. And that is staying intact the way it is right now. We have 3 ASD teachers. We have 8 SEAs that are part of the program. And then we also are funded for a 0.3 specialist and a 0.6 social worker. And so that is all, again, that increase isn't really an increase. It's just that cost of living piece for all those positions. High five. It's goofy. I mean, I'm not the one in finance, but these 3 accounts, High Five, 5023, Early Childhood Expansion, and ECFE Scholarship, those are all the 3 ways that my High Five was funded this year. And that was for 3 classroom teachers, 3 AEs, and 0.6 specialists. So all of that came out of that money. This year, we are losing a High Five classroom, which also means we're losing an AE, and we're also losing 0.2 of a prep provider. So my total for my High Five program this current year was $516,688. Next year, my total for the program is $363,015. So that's a huge decrease there. One positive, no, there's positives. One huge highlight though of the budget is an increase in ELL teachers. And so this year we were funded 3.5. And sorry, am I supposed to?
No, you're good. You keep walking.
Okay.
English language learner?
Yes, yeah, English language learner teachers. We are, the majority of our new students are native Spanish speakers. And so it's been really helpful to have EL teachers that speak Spanish. I mean, most of them do. And then we were able to, like I said, because of the number of students we have, we increased one of our teachers' time from 0.5 to 0.8. Next school year, we are being funded for 4.5 EL teachers instead of 3.5. So we'll be adding another EL teacher. So that's a huge plus. And I think we're close to almost 30% of our population. Christine, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're close to 30% of our population being English language learners that receive services. Let's see. And then Title I, again, this is all based on student need, educational benefits. This year, we were reduced from 195,000 to 113, and so that's a reduction of 81 plus $1,000. That is for folks who are doing interventions, AEs who are doing classroom support and instruction. This year, I don't have it in front of me, but we funded 5 AEs out of our Title I money. And so reducing it by 81, right there, 2 less positions can be funded out of Title I. Title I family involvement money has also gone, I'll share it in a second. Title I family involvement money has gone down. So when we are having events where we're providing food or instructional supplies or like math, make and takes, that's where all that money comes from. So that'll be reduced for next school year. And then the IB money, that's funding that we get because we're an IB school. That is for a 0.6 IB coordinator. So that's part of Sue's job. We also were funded last year for a world language teacher and some teacher professional development funds. And so because we're an IB school, we have to keep all of our learning up to date and be certified and all these pieces. And so that's where we get that money. This year, it's showing the reduction of the world language teacher, which came out of that fund.
So will you still be able to stay in IB school, or is that now interfering?
That's a great question, and I don't have an answer. What I shared with staff is that, we were funded for a coordinator and we were funded for professional development. And so that's what I'll take now. I think the other piece is that we could think about doing world language in a different way. As an IB school, it says that world language is for students aged 7 and older. And so that's something too that we could think about, like how are we doing world language? But I don't have an answer, but that's kind of my talking that we've done as a whole staff. All right, we want to keep. Principal and AP money, again, that's just the cost of living increase. And if we're funded for a principal and AP, that's where that money has to go to those 2 positions. I can't say, well, Christine, we don't need you. I'm going to get, all these different positions. So that has to be directly funded for an AP and a P. Q comp, this is kind of interesting money. It is to provide secondary observation and coaching for teachers. And so this year it was 0.2 for that coaching and then also professional development. And so I could use that fund to have a contracted service come in and do a PD for our teachers. This year we were funded for a 0.3 coach and observer, but the district held all of the professional development money. And so I could make a request and then they could say, sure, we'll fund that request. And then that's how that money will be distributed, but it didn't come straight to my budget. Even though it looks the same, it's different funding. It was increased to a 0.3 instead of a 0.2. Language line is for exactly what it is. If teachers need to make a phone call, or sometimes when we don't have interpreters for conferences, we use the language line, and that's a fund that's just set aside for that. Third-party billing is our Siri. So we have an SEA who supports setting 2 students. So it's a SEA that supports our certs and is in classrooms and goes from class to class to support students that have that written into their IEPs. Library media specialist, this funding was continued as we had this year. So that's funding for a 0.5 media specialist. However, there are some stipulations to that kind of impact our building because that 0.5 cannot be a prep provider. And so we used most of our specialists to provide a prep class for our kids, but this 0.5 cannot be used as a prep provider.
What's prep?
Our specialists, so music, gym, media, art, music. And so when teachers, they're contractually required to have a 55-minute prep period. Right. And so it's the specialists that teach them while they're on prep.
Got it.
Yep.
So that means the media class, that's one of the
rotation specialist classes would go away?
No, no, it just means that I would have to buy up buy up an additional specialist to provide prep. Because what my plan is, and we'll get to that in a second, what we've talked about is ILT, is to have 20 classrooms. And with 20 classrooms, including ASD and high five, we have to have 0.2 prep provider for each classroom. So 20 times 0.2 is 4. But 0.5 of my specialists can't provide prep. So that means I really only have 3.5. So I have to buy up a 0.5 to have 4. And I know that's confusing because I'm just saying it out loud, but when you do the math, it makes a whole lot of sense.
Just to follow up on the media specialist, is this is the second media specialist position, not the first? Or is this?
It's in my not opinion, but it's just a media specialist.
Right.
So I'm not assigning it to one or two.
From a logistical standpoint, if we've got Ms. Werner, we've got Ms. Reach, is this representative of one or both of those positions? I know not people necessarily, but is this representative of both those positions?
I guess I'm not following your question.
Well,
The fact that they can't do prep.
well, no, I'm not really speaking to the prep thing. But, what I'm speaking to though is.
So yes,
Yeah.
go to the next slide. No, so right now we have 2 media teachers.
Yeah.
We have a music teacher, an art teacher, and a gym teacher. So we have 5 people. I need 4.5 people. So that means half of one of those people is going to be excellent. I guess that's in plain language, that's what that means. So I have 5 prep providers. I don't need 5, and I can't afford 5 in my budget. I need 4.5. I need 4. So, because, yeah.
Okay.
I have 5.
No, yeah,
But
no, absolutely.
But I really have 4.5 because half of one can't do it. So I need half of a specialist is being excess.
Right. No, yeah. The line of question I had was because we were provided funding for a second media specialist, which we took advantage of, and I think a lot of schools did, and I feel like our school's been pretty successful with it. But
yeah.
I thought in this budget we were able to keep the second, and it sounds like it's not necessarily the case. Yeah.
It's not necessarily the case because then you have all the contractual pieces of seniority and accessing and licensure.
Yeah.
So that I'm not going to go through all those pieces, but those impact who is cut and who is excess because of the contract. Transportation coordinator is a 0.2. All schools got a 0.2. That's Maria, part of Maria's position in the office. She does all of the busing and all of the conversation around that. The intervention teams, that's, like I said, the 2 teachers and the 4 AEs, that's being reduced. So that will come out of our budget. And so then the bottom line is that we have a budget that is almost $500,000 less than it was last year. And like you can see, I said it includes $52,742 cost of living increases. So all those pluses aren't really pluses because they've already been spent on the positions and people that need to be spent on. So that's why I put that there. So that's why I said it's more than $500,000 that's being reduced from our budget for this school year.
Where did the funding for the intervention teams come from last year? Was it the state budget process for the district?
No, it was the ESSER funds, the federal ESSER funds. And so they needed to be spent by, I think, September of this year. And so that's how they were all funded out of, is that ESSER funding. Yep, and that is sunsetting and done. There's also just again to clarify these pieces. So district funded allocations, like I said, the district funded us the 0.5 TOSA, that's being reduced. We also have a speech is 1.4, the nurse is 0.6, the psychologist is 0.4, band is 0.3, and advanced learner support is a 0.4. And then district funded for this year, they are still funding the advanced learner support. So that is funded by the district for 0.4. There's some Title I holdback money, and I can't explain all of the pieces around there, but I think it was around $6 million. Then it's now being redistributed to all the buildings that qualify for title, which we're one of. And so we're being funded a 1.0 intervention teacher. And so that will be funded centrally, and then we'll have to go through interview and select for that position. But that's something that's new in our budget. Ren, you have a question.
So since specialist is 4.5, like, is one of the specialist teachers, like, not being funded? So like, is one of the specialist teachers gonna be reduced?
Yes.
Okay.
Good question. Good. And then speech is increasing to 1.8, nurse stays at 0.6, psychologist is going up to 0.6. We will be funded OT, I just don't know how much. We're funded this year too. And then K5 literacy math is 0 and band is 0. And so ultimately that's the breakdown of all of our numbers. If you want to go back into the slide deck, we can continue.
Hold on a minute.
We have to stop sharing, I'm pretty sure.
Let me find it again. I lost it.
Is it possible to, I don't know, I'm just thinking, like, is it possible to take funds for one specialist and transfer to another? So like, you wanted to keep band with 0.3, like take that from media and move it over, or does it not work?
It can work like that. I think, yeah, I don't have an answer for that right now.
Was this where you wanted to be?
Yep.
All right, I just need to go back to the share. That is this one.
Okay, so this is, we've gone through this as a staff, but for this coming year's budget, some of the non-negotiables, which we've already negotiated now, so it's changed, but we will need to add an EL teacher. And so that FTE will depend on canvassing. And so it could be a teacher that's 0.5, it could be a teacher that's 0.7, or it could be adding a 1.0 teacher. And so currently we have 3.8. And so we're funded for 4.5. So that means if everyone stays the way they are right now, I would post a 0.7 EL job, which is kind of tough to fill, not a full-time job and not a half-time job. If one of the teachers decides that I don't want to be a 0.8, I want to go back to a 0.5, then I will post a 1.0. If that teacher decides, you know what, 0.8 has been great, I want to be a 1.0, then I would post a 0.5. And so these, again, are all these contractual conversations with canvassing and seniority rights that I have to have before the final decision is made. I saw a hand up somewhere.
What does depending on canvassing mean?
Canvassing, it's a district process where if there's a position that needs to be reduced, I always have to start with the most senior person, and I ask them, do you want to excess yourself? And normally they say no, and I say great, and then I go on to the next senior person and say, do you want to excess yourself? And then usually it's a no, no, no until I get to the least senior person, and then I say, you know, after canvassing all of the senior folks, you are the least senior, and I have to excess you.
I was hoping it meant we had to go knocking doors.
No, I mean, it is kind of knocking from staff person to staff person, but that's what canvassing in our.
Give us something to do.
Yeah, that's what canvassing means in our context. Yep. And then this is for all of us and for our staff, for my staff to know too, that the addition of a classroom also costs me 0.2 of a prep provider. So if I'm adding a classroom anywhere, not only is it the $113,663 of an average teacher salary, it's also the $22,722, whatever, of a prep provider that I also have to add. So it's not just, I'm going to put a classroom here and put a classroom there, because then it also impacts all those pieces. And then as an IB school, I think it's really important to have a 1.0 IB coordinator. So that is usually 0.6 district funded and then 0.4 building funded. And I think this year, we may be reducing that a tiny, tiny bit to a 0.9, not a 1.0, which gives us a little bit of, a tiny bit of money. So then some possible options that we've gone through with some scenarios is buying up a half third grade teacher and a half fourth grade position to avoid that split class. Then that projection would be 24 per class for third grade and then 26 per class for fourth grade, which still seems high, but compared to 29 and 31 is a big difference in my opinion. That would mean that we'd also have to reduce a 0.5 intervention teacher. And that is tied, and I'll just say that's tied to our K-5 TOSA. And so the K-5 TOSA has already been reduced by the district. So then that would include that additional half. So I'd reduce that position. I'd have to reduce the 0.5 specialist. I'd have to reduce a student support AE, a classroom support AE. And then in this model, I would still buy up the 0.6 advanced learner teacher to complete a 1.0 FTE. And I recognize that there's a plethora, a word my daughter used yesterday, I was really shocked that she used it, but there's a plethora of different options. You know, you cut this, build that up, cut this. You go to the next slide, Paul. That was one option. Another option is to have those 16 classrooms, including a 3-4 split. This would still mean that I have to reduce a 0.5 specialist, but I would be able to keep the intervention position. I would still have to reduce a student support AE, reduce a classroom support AE, and then I could still buy up the 0.6 AL teacher. Another option is buying up the 0.5 third grade to 0.45 fourth grade to avoid the split class, reduce the intervention teacher, reduce a 0.5 specialist, reduce the AL teacher by 0.4. So they would only be 0.6, and that would be 0.4 district funded, 0.2 building funded. And then I would reduce either a student support AE or a classroom support AE. So regardless of what option our staff and I ultimately decide to go with, we're still accessing folks and people are still losing positions. If you want to go to the next slide. So just things to consider. I believe there's a huge value in not having a split classroom. So it reduces class size. It gives us 3 third grade classrooms, 3 fourth grade classrooms. Again, 24 kids per class and 26 kids per class, as opposed to 29 and 31. So I'm strongly in favor personally of this one where we buy up those classes, but that also impacts lots of other positions in our building. Another thing that I started talking about is reducing ESP hours. And so if we reduce our IB coordinator by a small percentage and reduce ESP hours by a small percentage, we may be able to keep an additional AE for our building next year. This is just, again, consideration. Having 1.0 FTE positions, I think, are a lot more easily filled than partial FTEs. So this goes back to the EL piece where having a 0.7 might be really tricky because people want, you know, either a full-time or not as much a time as a 0.7. I, as a principal, am working to meet the needs of the entire community, knowing that we have advanced learners, knowing that we have students who are new to the country and just got here last week and are in our classrooms, and just knowing that there's a wide range of abilities and needs and supports that kids need. And so all of you are customers and are people that come here, part of our community. So I have to answer to everyone that's here. I have to answer to everyone who's not here. And I also have 80 staff members that I have to answer to. And so it's, for me, working to meet the needs of the entire community. And then, again, this was just considerations for our staff and for everyone just to think about. So licensed staff, if partially accessed, could have rights to full positions in the building, which may lead to additional accessing. And it goes without saying, there are no easy decisions when it comes to reductions in a school, because most of our money and most of our funding is tied up in personnel and people that work, side by side and work very closely with all of your kids every single day. So this is kind of the stark reality right now. Last year, we were in the position of having almost $1 million extra in our budget. And increasing all of these positions. And so now most of the positions that were added for this school year will be reduced for next school year. Go next slide, I think.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go back. Yep.
So if you keep people on as the ESPs and reduce some people's position by a little bit to keep more people on, and then if you get increased funding in October, did that change what those folks' jobs look like, or?
It's possible. So there's the opportunity if I do have more students, talking about those staffing adjustments, we could increase hours. We could post other positions depending on, what we do get and what is presented during those staffing adjustments. And again, I would love to be forecasting an increase and having over enrollment again, like we did this year, but we don't know, what's going to happen between now and September 4 or 5, whenever school starts.
Is there hope that this could change, that a funding source could become available?
I don't have an answer to that. My quick answer is no. I think, I know that right now, and the state has a $3.7 billion surplus again.
Right.
And so I think there's some more lobbying there. And I know the district has Josh Dunham, who's the lobbyist for us. I think there's those pieces. I know that there's some potential funding coming from early childhood from the state. And so that, I'm not saying it's going to specifically impact Bancroft, but that could also see the return or increase of more high five classrooms throughout the district. So I think it's all those pieces. But I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now with our funding. Go here and then you and then you.
Has there been any more discussion about closing and consolidating schools?
That's a great question for the school board. I know that's something that was brought up back in, I think, November when they laid out the plan for restructuring and consolidating closures. And we have a new superintendent now. And so I think those are all conversations that I'm sure are going to happen or are happening right now. But I don't have.
But it's too late in the year for that to happen for next year. Like
That's what I've heard. Yep, that we're just, there's not enough time to do that for next school year.
May I add just a comment to that? I was in a meeting on Saturday and a couple of board members expressed that the issue of putting this budget together and dealing with everything they dealt with here, put staff at capacity such that they couldn't also tackle the school building closure issue. And that there was just no room for them to sort of work that properly. So they made the choice to do this action and then address the school closure in the future. And I didn't say how far into the future this was, but out of that meeting came the notion that and this is for comments I might have later, if we survive this little speed bump, depending on how the school building closure discussion goes, would that mean an increase in funding for other things if they do go down the road of school funding closures or school building closures? So that was sort of part of the context of that question, which I think is kind of goes to your question: is there hope? Right. And one of the things that I took away from that meeting that I was in was that, again, this is a temporary window that if people play their cards right, we went into a climb, we're now into a drop, maybe we'll come out into a climb, a much more sharper climb rather than a long climb out. But anyway, that's what I have from that.
Okay, thank you. There was 2 more questions, yeah.
I am curious if you know, to what extent the changes in funding the district is implementing on Bancroft reflect the budget priorities that the teachers union put together, the considerations that they advance to the school board, where it's Minneapolis Public Schools apparently compared to other districts in the area spends way more than like-size districts on administration and things like that. And they advance more than, I don't know what happens at Davis.
No, that's another great question. And I don't have the answers to that. I think, that's a good question for the school board members. I know that they are making cuts at the Davis Center. I have not seen what those cuts or reductions are yet. But again, that's a great question for people that are higher up than me in the administration piece. Or if you want anything to add, good too.
I don't.
Okay, and then I think you had a question too?
Yeah, so, I know teachers with the large class sizes are, like at capacity, right? And the interventionists have been really helpful at helping a lot of our students that are so far behind make more growth. What's the hope for next year for my kids that have been like pretty much only made that progress in intervention?
Yep, so I think number one is our goal is always to have strong tier one instruction. So just like the first time and the best instruction the first time, right? That's my piece. But I think prior to this, prior to having intervention teams, we still did interventions in our classrooms. So teachers did do interventions. They did do class-wide interventions. Our AEs, I mean, Miss Rufina and Miss Laura and Miss Rebecca, they all did interventions. And so it's not that we won't have that opportunity for students to be part of. We'll just have less people to be doing it. The 1.0 intervention teacher that we're getting from the district is going to be great. I already have a person in mind that will support our AEs in doing those interventions in the classrooms. And so would I want to have 2 intervention teachers and 4 AEs doing this? Absolutely. But we had folks doing those jobs before we had the intervention tryouts.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my answer. I don't know.
Are the 80 people that work here, are they paid on a 12-month cycle or like 9 or 10 months?
Yeah, so most people, I mean, it depends on what the teacher or the employee chooses. You can choose a 12-month pay cycle, so you get paid through the summer. But teachers are a 39-week employee, and so that's what they're paid. And then ESPs are very similar, but it depends on what you opt into. So I don't work all year, but I get paid all year. I work all year.
We got that on recording.
No, the minute it came out of my mouth, I was like, no, I work all year long.
Because I thought the person over here in the red plaid had like a really interesting point. Like, what if the 80 people went down to 0.9? That saves like 8 positions, and then it bumps back up after February when you get the money that we're going to get because we're going to have so many new students.
So part of the 80 people are classroom teachers, so we're thinking of a classroom teacher not being here the entire day.
No. So it's like you get like furloughed for a month in the summer, but you're going to end up getting that money back because we're going to like they're miscounting how many new students are going to come in.
You can't furlough people in the summer who don't work in the summer.
Yeah.
So they only are on contract for 39 weeks.
They can choose to stretch their pay so that they get a consistent paycheck.
Yeah.
They're not paid for the summer.
Yeah.
I mean, I also wanted to be transparent that I don't think teachers right now, that there's a huge level of trust that will say, yep, sure, I'll take a cut and be 0.9.
Yeah.
Because you might get more money later. I mean, I think that would be a really tough sell for anybody. I would say absolutely not. But I appreciate the out of the box creative thinking. Go ahead.
Well, I think about us as the PTO and the funds that we have, and when I was listening to your breakdown and like what areas we have that we can help contribute and like what we have contributed, like helping pay for buses for field trips or other things. I just think about what opportunities can we support some of those line items differently in the future, knowing that we have money available, but then you could have more flexibility as needed. I know it's not like enough for staffing or whatever, but it could be covering some of those supplies or other things.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, those are conversations for, I mean, we can start them now, but I think they're good conversations for next year about around supplies, around, you know, what does our supply list look like for kids? And what can we ask of families? And then what can we lean on PTO to support and fill some of those gaps? Knowing that, you know, there's many schools in our same position and not there's many schools that don't have the same source of funds that we have as our PTO. And so I think I want to be cognizant of that. We also get donations and things like that. And we have an account through Achieve Minneapolis. And so when I'm looking at, even my family involvement going down by almost $4,000, like pizza's not cheap, and all our meals that we put on for folks and our breakfast that we have for Native American Family Involvement Day and African American Involvement Day that we just had, those get expensive. So we could dip into Achieve, and we have some sources where we can do that, but that's a good conversation that we can have with PTO.
That's a great segue, Robin, into the role that PTO can play. And I understand that the idea of some of these conversations are future seeing conversations. Again, at that meeting, I attended the dual language meeting over the weekend, and where the 6 schools that were doing it, they talked about it. And one of the common themes in regards to what Robin brought up was that they are already thinking of leaning on their community to fund school supplies and fund family engagement. Some of those schools are like our school, where they'll have 4 or 5 family engagement events, plus the little bitties. And their funding was cut about as severely as our funding was cut, because this was district-wide. And I think it's certainly an easy stretch for this PTO or for future PTOs to sort of step in and fill the gap. One of the questions that was in my mind, again, regarding PTO involvement, and I think this links to the idea of band, is band is a shared position, 0.3 among 3 schools. And the question becomes, what role could PTO play in saving band at the 5th grade level in 3 or 4 of the schools in our area? Northrop's meeting tomorrow, Seward's meeting on Wednesday.
Sorry, our building is 0.3.
Yeah.
And they're 0.3 and 0.2.
Absolutely. So the idea is that if saving band means 4 PTOs coming together to raise the money for a 1.0 that's shared among them, for the year that we need to sort of survive this, I'm making a total projection at this case, I'm guessing at this case, could be save band long enough that it exists and there isn't a gap, because maybe, and we're gambling, that band comes back as a funded thing. Band there is, for anybody that is following this on Facebook, band's got its own wave of support that's sort of rising to sort of come to this. And so one of the questions I did want to bring to this PTO or to a future PTO is that something that is in our wheelhouse to do? And like I said, Northrop's meeting tomorrow, Seward's meeting on Wednesday. There are a couple other schools in the area that are sort of trying to tackle this on their own.
Yeah, like what are the rules of like what we can fundraise? Can we fundraise for staffing, or is that?
Yeah.
Like, I know there's like certain rules and like school politics of like where money can go
Mhm.
and come from.
Yeah, I don't know. That's something I would have to ask general counsel. That's something I would have to ask my associate superintendent.
And it could,
Go ahead.
it could very well be that, I understand that from a staffing standpoint, right? There's that, but for better or for worse, and I come from a family from pretty much who are just giggers, we're just artists. And there are residency programs. We've done them here. You bring in an artist to do the thing. They're essentially teaching to the kids, but it's, instead of it being a classroom position or a 0.2 prep, it is a band experience, right? And so that might save us from having to get involved in the contractual part of it. Now, again, that does put us in, a little bit into, well, now we're getting in the way of a contractual thing. So there's that. There was a person who used to attend the school, whose family used to attend the school, and who used to say to me, this person tempered me a lot, used to say to me, for everything that we PTO pick up as a gap to fill, how much are we saying to the district, okay, we're letting you off the hook because we're going to do it ourselves? So I understand that's the other way this blade cuts. But having said that, Diego's got all the ins and outs about the legalese, about staffing. There are other ways of providing the experience to our students. The gear was all bought. I mean, there's instruments across the district that's not going to go anywhere. So we've got the gear. We just need the knowledge we need someone with the knowledge to pass their wisdom down the line. Is that something that PTO can do?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to answer that.
Well, that was totally rhetorical. Yeah, I get it.
It's already 7:05. Just quickly, I did find the picture of the class size caps that are in the contract. And so for kindergarten, because we're below 70% free and reduced, it is 27 kids. And so that's what we're, our enrollment projections at for already having a full kindergarten. To start, first and second grade is 28 kids, third grade is 34 kids, and fourth and fifth grade is 36 kids.
And I also believe in the contract, it says that a teacher can get paid per extra student past that limit.
Yep, so it doesn't necessarily mean that if we go past that number that we'll get additional funding. The teacher might be paid a stipend
Look at
for.
affiliation in the classroom with a teacher, or like as an additional staff.
Yep.
So I know it gets really like convoluted.
Yep.
For that as well.
So there's that.
I have a question. Is there anything we can do to, like, is this like set in stone? I know you mentioned that tomorrow the district has a meeting, right?
Yep.
But like, is there anything we can do as parents or to advocate, or is this?
You know, that's the only thing I would say is to advocate and, again, write your school board, because it's also, it's about Bancroft, but it's also about Minneapolis Public Schools, because it's all fifth graders not having band now. It's all high fives or reviews. So I do want to keep it locally immediate, but it's also about, you know, the whole district. So I think getting the word out, talking to the school board members, attending the school board meeting, you know, having your voice heard. It doesn't, you know, I don't know. They always tell me it's set in stone. They say, oh, there's no changes we can make. And then changes happen throughout the weekend of different money here, or they move it from this pot. So I think, you know, there's that possibility.
In terms of things that parents can do, I think the fact that it is district-wide means that there are a bunch of things that we can do in addition to fundraising. And one of the things that I think we'll continue to talk about is ways that we can kind of use the PTO to activate parents around this. So I know that there's going to be a rally on. Obviously, the more of us that turn out both to that and the meeting itself means that the changes that are happening that the school board are responsible for, they have to account for, right? Also, there is a budget surplus. And so I think having a campaign of all of us writing our state reps and really trying to put pressure on the state to make available, you know, to make choices about that $3 billion budget surplus. Now, obviously, you know, that's a process that we can't actually control, but it is something that I think is in helping parents become competent to engage with and helping to create a culture where we're even more engaged around it in addition to the fundraising.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. I am very excited about the school board meeting tomorrow. My understanding from leadership at the teachers union is that there's kind of like a trend of the school district lowballing enrollment estimates and opening up the school year, saying there's, you know, it's a historic, you know, budget crisis, and then somehow in the summer, like, end up just a little bit in the black. And so there's a big discrepancy between what teachers have been, like the teachers union have been seeing, and what they see as like key spending priorities and where the budget is, like where the school district is actually moving the money. I know one of the teachers union leaders is running for school board. That seems like a really awesome thing. And to just like a little bit refine like the idea of like talking to our elected and stuff like that. My best guess is that state senators and state reps who are coming from this area are excited about funding Minneapolis public schools, and that Governor Tim Walz might not be as excited to be like, we're moving, you know, so like, I would say if you're focusing your attention on someone, it would be the governor's administration that might be most strategic at the end of the day, moving some of those extra monies our way. But yeah, I'll see what the school board meeting tomorrow.
And I was going to just offer, because it's late on our agenda, but one of the things that's going to be coming up in May is PTO elections, and I see some new board members in the room here. So please do keep that in mind. I believe a number of positions will be opening. Absolutely treasurer, but possibly other senior leadership as well. So please, in addition to whatever you're thinking, think about joining the board. And buy lots of plants.
Did you have a question?
All right, any final, yeah, want to pass it on to PTO business, because I know folks were here, but we're almost out of time.
Yeah, wondering if we could, like, if there are specific actions that we hear about, like, here's a letter and here's a specific ask, is it appropriate to post that on like the PTO Facebook page?
PTO Facebook's open to whatever kind of traffic. There's a PTO Facebook group, which you all control. The PTO Facebook page is a PTO mouthpiece, but the group, the parents group, you all control that. And so there's absolutely room there. What goes to the PTO website, which is district sponsored, is a little limited, and our website's a little defunct at this point. We only have one active page anyway. So the newsletter is another way, although again, we pass that through district resources, so we'd have to do our own if we're going to, depending on what the content is. Yeah. I know before everyone totally leaves, I just want to put a motion on the floor. For folks that want to extend PTO business, can we do that, or are we going to do a hard cut? That's a question I'm having.
That's a good question. I don't feel like we have any decisions to make unless you.
I will float it and we don't have to decide it, but if we want to pass this through email, the April bike education event's going to need funding that I could just pass through email. It's because I'm treating it like a play date, so it's going to need snack money because we don't have that. There's that. I will pass through email the potential design. Just generally speaking, we got a handful from fifth graders did signs. Nothing really stood out as, oh, this is the one, but I'm going to take bits and pieces. The verbiage at this point, as it looks, is going to be slow your roll. Bancroft is on the go. Walkers and bikers in our neighborhood, right? That's the idea. And I'm taking elements from different things different students did. So I could pass that through email too to get approval before it's printed.
Yes.
All right.
I think.
Can I just say thank you to everybody for coming and for having interest in our school and your students' education. And we will continue, regardless of however many people are still here, to try and provide the best education to all of your kids that we can. So I just want to thank you again for your continued support and for your showing up and showing out for your kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so I just.
Will these slides be shared?
Hi, folks online. I think we're cutting this meeting down. So I don't know what more there is to say.
I just wanted to reply to your screen. I want to get out of the screen. To your email.
Yes.
I didn't get a chance to respond. I love it. I love that you're thinking about us and including us. And I think that the Family Fun Fest would be something that our group could do.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, yeah, great.
There's too much going on in April.
You did something during the strike.
Badges.
Like during the strike, you had to like.
Yeah. No, all good. I just wanted to make sure. And so,
The fact that you're like, hey, I should ask.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be great. I might bring my scouts over, because I do want this to be a community thing, and I'm going after what's local to us. But if you agree to it's great to have community.
Like our year-end celebration.
Well, would be good enough to sort of come to, because they're going to be at the school. So could they be consider joining us next year? And here, I don't know what activity you do. I'm
just saying as long as it isn't the evening.
Oh, as long as not that, yeah. What is that, Thursday? I think they're trying to stay away from Thursday, so. Yeah, okay, but let's keep that. Open house, we had my staff.
And we could do something, like, we could be in charge of the test.
Yeah.
And then I was also wondering,